So, hello everybody, and today I have the honor to talk with just an amazing guitarist who has a lot of projects behind. And so, man, please introduce yourself for us.
Hello, all. Nice to meet you virtually. And you, I'm Euge Valovirta. Euge, it's not my real name, but it's been my nickname since kindergarten. So only my family and closest friends call me by my real name, but everybody knows me as Euge. So yeah, I've been playing guitar since '89. So a long time ago. Like you said, I've played in several bands. Like God's Plague was my first band that I got a record deal. We were only playing in Finland and few occasions in Sweden. Then I played in Suburban Tribe. We were really big in Finland, Gold Almus and so on. We're actually doing a small comeback next summer. We have 6 big summer festivals with the band. We quit in 2011 and now we're doing sort of a small comeback. Then I played in the Swedish Shining, which was kind of like black metal, black rock. I played in Shining for almost 10 years, 7 or 8 years. I have, I played on so many albums like Children of Bodom, Ensiferum, done a lot of sessions which I probably don't even remember them all. And then I quit Shining in 2017, and then we formed Syra, which is it's me and Jake from Amaranth, or he used to be in Amaranth, Jesper, who used to be in Flames, and Marcus, who used to be in Engel, and Alex, our drummer, who still plays in Camelot also. So that's my main band. And then we did a COVID project with Sammy and a couple of other guys in 2020 called Red Wolf. That was just an album. Me and Sammy wrote the whole album, and it was originally supposed to be my solo album, but because me and Sammy wrote all the songs together, and then Swedish drummer called Adde Larsson played drums, and my friend Janne Joutseniemi, he used to play in Suburban Tribe and Stone, he played the bass, so we just decided to call it a band, a Red Wolf, although we never played together. We recorded the stuff in different countries, but yeah, so that's one thing. And now this solo career, this is my third solo album, and this is the first one that is released by a like major label, Gramophone, under Warner Music. So yeah, and this is I guess the most me 80s 90s hard rock metal. There you go.
So, first of all, I wanna say congratulations with releasing Testify and also the first single of the upcoming album, The Game.
Yeah.
So, and can you tell us a few words about the upcoming album? This is called Heartons, right?
Yes.
So maybe how many songs there will be and why hard tones? Maybe it has like a hidden meaning.
Yeah. Well, the title. There's no hidden meaning because I thought that the tones on the album are pretty hard. So hard tones, and then it's also a nod to my oldest and dearest friends, Niko Hartonen, and Hartonen's nickname is Hearttone, which comes from his nickname. He sings on three of the album songs, actually four when if we count in the Japan bonus track. So that was kind of me and Niko. We've known each other for God, almost 30 years. We had the band called God's Plague where we did 4 albums. We had another band called Drive, we did album. We played 10 years in Finland, those Dimebag, Beyond Forever, Pantera tribute shows. So the tones are hard, and then my good old friend Nico Hearttone Hartonen. That's the title. And There's 10, no, 11 or 10 songs. I need to, I don't remember. I think there's 11 songs or 10 songs. Maybe I need to cheat now a little bit. Sorry, this is embarrassing. I don't remember how many songs there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Sorry, yeah,
11
11
songs.
songs.
And
And then Japan version has a bonus track, which makes it 12 songs.
okay, and maybe can you tell your favorite, like the name, the title of the song? Do you have favorite song?
Well, I obviously they're all my babies and babies of the vocalist I wrote those songs with. But the Testify is kind of that is probably if I would have to choose one song, because that song really, you know, you get the whole picture of the album from that song. So it's hard riffing, heavy riffing in the style of late 80s, early 90s. Sammy does absolutely fantastic job on the song. So it's hard to choose one because obviously I like them all a lot because they are on the album. But if I'd had to choose one, I would say Testify featuring Sammy.
So nice. And who made the album cover, the single cover?
The album, the single covers and the album cover and the booklet, CD and vinyl, they were made by a guy called Devin James. He also plays drums on the album and he's also a fantastic graphic designer. So he designed the cover artwork. And funny story, or actually quite cool story, is that because I was born in 76, which is the year of the dragon in Chinese, signs. I have a big dragon tattoo my whole back, this big dragon, and then I have a carpfish here. It's part of it's actually part of Japanese folklore that when a carpfish swims up on the river, then when he conquers all the hardships, he becomes a or she becomes a dragon. So I told Devin that. I sent him a picture of my back that I would like to have this because I have this dragon. This is dragon and carpfish, so it's very close to kind of my personal stuff, the whole folklore. And what I didn't realize that 2024 is the year of the dragon. Wow.
Yes.
And I didn't know this. I didn't know that because I have a Japanese label called King Record, and they told me that this is really cool because it's Year of the Dragon now, and you have the dragon cover. I was like, wow, shit, really? Because I was born in the Year of Dragon, 76. So I was pretty cool, but that wasn't. I didn't plan that. I just wanted to have that dragon thing in there, and the cool thing is that now it's the Year of the Dragon.
Maybe it's a sign that your upcoming album will hit
I
all
hope so that it's
charts
fun, and
all
I hope
over
that it's
the
a
world.
positive sign.
So, and let's move on to Testify. So, this is a feat with Semi Albana from Lost Society, and the question is, yeah, Lost Society. How did you meet? It was during Red Wolf or many times before, many years before?
Years before, when Sammy was just, in my books, just a kid, like I'm 18, really young, and they were upcoming in Finland. And at the time, I worked at Universal Music Finland / Spinefarm Records as an A&R, so I signed bands. I signed Santa Cruz, for example, and I was an A&R for Michael Monroe and stuff. So I went to see them and met the guys when they were really young, and I didn't end up, or we didn't end up signing them, but we became friends with Sammy. He's a fantastic guy, really nice guy, awesome guitar player. So we've known each other for I don't know, 15 years something, and then when the Red Wolf thing came, when I wrote the songs or the basic tracks, every time when I wrote, I was like, because my idea was that it should have different vocalists, like on this one, the Red Wolf album. But then every time when I was writing, I was like, man, I hear Sammy on this. I hear. Then I sent the tracks to Sammy, and hey, I'm doing this album. Would you want to sing? It was like, yeah, great songs. Can I sing one or two? I was like, well, I was thinking if you sing them all. And he was like, oh, wow, yeah, sure. So they were just demos, and then we wrote them together. Because the way I wrote, I usually come up with the basic tracks, the riffs, and then I finish the album with the vocalist. You know, we bounce ideas. Okay, this verse should be this long, and can you change the riff so that the vocals work? So then we wrote the Red Wolf, the songs, the 10 songs that ended up being the Red Wolf Session Volume 1 album. And we testify, when I wrote that, I wrote that Sammy's vocals in mind. I was just hearing Sammy, because it's pretty fast and aggressive tune, so I wanted to have Sammy's youthful energy. And when I sent it to Sammy, I didn't give him any instructions, because I knew that he will get it, because we had written before many songs. So my instructions were just like, here's the basic tracks, you know what to do.
So,
He knew what to do, and he said me, he replied to me, yes, absolutely, I know exactly what to do.
so and how you choose musicians for your upcoming album, Hardtones?
Well, Devin, he's a fantastic drummer. He's from America, and I've worked with him on some of the drum MIDI packs, because he has his own company, and he does his own drum beats that he plays, and then he does covers. And I've used his MIDI packs on many demos. I actually used, when I wrote the songs, I used his MIDI packs. Then I asked him that, hey, since I've been using your stuff on these demos, would you want to play the drums for real on this album? And he said, absolutely, yes, it would be an honor. So Devin came via that. And then, well, I played all the guitars and bass, because I'm a bass player too. So it's pretty much that. And then the first single, Ben Varon plays a lead, because I've known Ben also for longer than Sammy, 25 years probably. And I've played on Ben's band's albums, but Ben has never played on my band's album. So I asked that, hey, now it's time for you to play a few solos on my album. So that came. And the vocalists, that was pretty much, when I wrote the songs, I heard certain vocalists in mind. There's one a little bit easier song, and on that I heard Pekka Heino from Brother Fire Tribe. I heard that, and then one song, there's Jake E. But it was basically, when I wrote them, I heard the vocalists' voices in my head, and luckily everyone that I asked that would you want to do this, everybody said yes. They were really, really happy to do this, and everybody said that this song feels like it's written for me. It's really easy. I was like, yeah, it is. I wrote that song for you and testified. There's actually another song which is really good. We did with Sammy, a little bit slower. It might be, I would like to do a video of that too and release it as a single, because it's so good. Sammy's vocals are just, it's more melodic song and mid-tempo song, but it's an amazing job on that one too. So, but yeah, that's the way.
And so, will all the invited musicians be from Finland?
Well, the Devin, like I said, he's from America, the drummer, and then all the other vocalists are Finnish except Jake E. from Siren, from my band. He's a Swedish, so he's from Sweden.
Okay, so I read your interview from 2018 for Tornala magazine, and you said that you don't like to sing and to write the lyrics. And the question is, who has written the lyrics for Testify?
Sammy. All vocalists wrote the lyrics because, like I said, the way I write, I like to write with the vocalist so that I came up with the basic tracks, and then I send that to vocalist, and then we work on that together, and then the vocalists can well, on some songs I had an idea because there's one song, for example, called Pasadena 78, and it's really Van Halen, and I wanted that to be about Eddie Van Halen and Van Halen because he passed away. Pasadena is where Van Halen was born, and 78 was when their first album was released. So on that song, Jules Naveri sings on that. I told Jules that I would like this to be about Eddie, and then he wrote the lyrics because I'm not a good lyricist at all. But we Testify. I didn't say anything to Sammy. I just said that you know what to do with this because I just knew, and Sammy was like, yeah. So it's like rock and roll, Testify. Woohoo! So yeah, vocalists have done all the lyrics, and all the songs are credited 50-50 to me and the vocalist, so it's equal share. So it's a fair
So
game.
I think that Testify has a little bit vibes of Law Society, of maybe old Santa Cruz and Sammy own style. So
Yeah, definitely. And the whole album has that vibe, that 80s, late 80s, early 90s rock. And since Sammy is also a big fan of that even though he wasn't born when when that music was hot, I was born in the 70s, so I grew up with that music. But Sammy has obviously founded that later, and he likes a lot of that stuff too. So that song was like I said, I wrote that with Sammy in mind, that aggressive style.
So you told that you live in Switzerland now, and
Yes.
also you have your own studio here.
Yes.
And did you do all these things like recording, mastering on your studio?
The guitars and bass were recorded here, and then my backing vocals, because I sing backing vocals on most of the songs, like there's these kind of shoutings I just added. I'm not a good singer, but mostly like on Testify, Sammy does all that stuff, but then I just added there my voice kind of lower, and like on the game, every song I just because more is more, and even though you don't necessarily hear my voice in there, but it's there. I sing really low like this, so it kind of gives. So those were done here. The drums were done in America at Devin's own studio, and then vocalists recorded. I think Sammy recorded his vocals at home because he has a great microphone, and then a couple of vocalists they went to like a real recording studio because they didn't have the equipment or they didn't know how to record, because especially vocals you need to have a really good microphone and microphone preamp to get a good sound, and some vocalists didn't have that, so they rented or they rented and I paid a recording studio. But yeah, vocals, everybody did them in Finland or then in Sweden. And Jules, I'm not actually sure where I think he recorded his vocals in Finland, but he lives in Brazil. So, but I think he was on vacation in Finland, and I think he rented a studio or his friend's studio, and they recorded. But it's done all over the world with the thank you modern technology.
Yes. And where did you shoot the music video for Testify?
We shot that in Helsinki. A few months ago, we actually shot another video on that same day on another singer, and I was exhausted after the day. But it was in Helsinki in this. It was a big studio, like video photography studio, like big stuff. So one long day for me, and then Sammy came in afternoon, and the vocalist, which, well, I'm not sure if I can. Well, I'm not gonna announce it because it will be the next jingle, so I want it to be a surprise. But he's also a really famous vocalist. So yeah, so those were done in Helsinki.
So about your producing, is it hard for you now? And was it hard for you when you start?
Obviously, yeah, because it's like with everything, when you do something 10,000 times, you started to be pretty good. Because I've done albums since '90s. First as a guitar player, and then I started to record something and produce a little bit, and it has come kind of gradually. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to do everything my own. I felt like I'm good enough for mixing, for producing, but I've learned so much from the so many, I don't even know how many albums I've done during my career, but I've always been interested, and I have taken notes. What microphone are you? Why this and why that? And Jacob Hansen, who I mastered the album with, I've done several albums with him. He's producing and mixing, and he has been sort of a mentor to me, because I have learned a lot of stuff from Jacob. Working with him and following him, and probably sometimes annoying him with all my questions.
So, and can you share with those who watching us and who can play the guitar, what drop do you use for Testify?
Well, yeah, it's a drop D flat, so it's standard tuning down one half step to E flat, and then the E string is tuned to so-called. It's a drop D tuning, but in drop D flat, so half lower. Quite basic, not really low, just a little bit. I like that tuning a lot. Many songs of the album has the same tuning.
And so actually the main part of our interview is over, and now I have some maybe strange questions, but
Okay,
enough.
shoot me.
So what do you prefer, tea or coffee?
Coffee in the morning, but sometimes in the evening I like to have a cup of black tea. No milk, no sugar. Now I have actually milk. Usually I drink my coffee black, but for whatever reason I poured some milk. But coffee black mornings, tea black evenings.
So what do you like to do mostly in your life?
Play guitar.
And
if we count out spending time with my wife.
so, and what do you hate to do mostly?
Hate is a strong word. Really
Yes.
strong word. I'm not sure if I hate to do something, but something that has always been my sort of motto, that I don't work with assholes. And if I find that someone is an asshole, no matter how profitable finance-wise it will be, I won't work with that person. So I don't like that, because I like to work with well, let's say people like Sammy, who's just a fantastic human being, and when we work, when we write, that's the reward. And then if people like the music we have created, and if I get some money from that, well, obviously that's a pretty big thing, because this is my main job. But that's not what I'm thinking when I'm working with people. It's creating, and then everything that comes after, it's a bonus. Luckily, I have made a living doing music and mixing for many years, so I guess I'm a bit lucky. But I don't necessarily, not sure if I hate anything, because I always try to, if I don't understand a person or their views, I at least try to understand. And many times when you try to understand, put yourself in another person's shoes, you might understand him a bit more and not hate.
So,
I don't hate is a strong hate is bad thing. People shouldn't hate each other's or anything because it's just like it's a waste of time.
so I get you. And what do you like watching? Series or movies?
Uh movies. I actually don't watch that much. I like to read a lot. I usually read about a book a week, especially when I'm traveling. I read even more. Some of my favorite all-time favorite movies is Goodfellas, uh, Interception, Star Wars, obviously, and a Finnish movie called Tuntematon Sotilas, Unknown Soldier. All the three versions. And series, well, lately, me and my wife, we've been watching the Masters of Air, which is about Second World War pilots. And that whole series, there's three series of that. It's Band of Brothers, Pacific, and now this Masters of Air miniseries, 10 episodes, produced by Tom Hanks. It's about Second World War, and they're following certain groups and their civil. So that's what I like the most. And one of my all-time favorites is the Peaky Blinders, which is Cillian Murphy starring. That was a great series. But there is so many because I think nowadays the series are almost like extended movies in a good way.
So,
But
and
mostly I like to read. I read more than I watch TV.
so maybe you can name your favorite book also.
Well, the Unknown Soldier book that is actually my favorite of the movies. And then one book that really hit me. Actually, I should mention two. The truth about the Harry Keppert case, which is written by a Swedish author. I think there's even a series of that book, Harry Keppert. And then this American guy that lived in Far East called Shantaram is the book. It's like 1,000 pages, but I read it in one day because it was so interesting. And it was his life story, but there was also a lot of like philosophical and how he sees, because he was a criminal, and I guess he turned out to be like a good guy. Fantastic book, Shantaram. Strong recommendation.
So, and what language do you use for reading, for watching, and actually, how many languages do you know?
Finnish and English. When I read and both, I don't really doesn't really matter to me. I'm a bit faster reader in Finnish because I kind of try to describe, but I kind of watch the pages just and go. English, I need to kind of actually read and sometimes think about the words. And TV, English usually, and many times with English subtitles. Sometimes it's hard to hear what they're saying. That's the same case in Finnish too. It's like maybe it's my hearing, but then I understand Swedish really well, and I speak Swedish. Basic. I can get along, and then German. I understand quite well because here where we live, this is a German-speaking area of Switzerland. But I'm not really a good speaker. I just really basics. But English and Finnish are the strongest ones, and then Swedish is pretty okay.
So, do you have your favorite guitar?
Guitar, yes, it's my signature model. This is I I got the endorsement with ESP in early 2000s, and that one they made me in 2010s. It's just like my specs, custom shop, and people can actually buy that guitar from ESP. But then I really like these 80s ESP Super Strats. Probably my signature, and then these. I have a few of those 80s Super Strats, so those are probably my favorite. But ESP brand-wise, they make, in my opinion, the best guitars. And I have a few Tokais too, which are really great. Basically everything that's made in Japan, because they just, in my experience and opinion, Japanese makes the best guitars.
So, and one more question about Testify. How and where you find the decorations for music video?
Oh, that was the director. I think it was some, what's the word in English when you, Halloween costume shop, like, so that was the Sammy's costume, that was all Sammy's, and then the guy that is in the mask, that's me with the mask and the hoodie. But that was the director just bought that, hey Helge, wear these and sit here and look miserable. And I was like, well, with this mask I can't look happy if I would like to. But yeah, that was Joel Korhonen, the director who brought all the costumes. For me, Sammy just had his fur and stuff.
Yes, his coat, his bandana.
Yeah, that was all. Nobody dressed Sammy, and I was actually, thought that I would wear a black T-shirt, but then Sammy said that, hey, shirt off. Like, man, I'm 48. I don't know. Shirt off. You're in a good shape. Okay. So why that was and I told Sammy that, I've been doing music since professionally since 20, 25 years, but I've never been without a shirt in a music video. And Sammy was like, well, it's about time now. Okay, shirt off. So I didn't have any costumes, just my black jeans.
And so the last question of the interview, what do you need to be completely happy?
I mean, well, obviously health. I'm health. I'm in really good shape. I do sports a lot, and obviously, the most important person in my life is my wife and my family. I'm really close with my family. I have still my grandparents alive, 96 years old, going strong. My father, my little sister, my little sister's boys, family, and my wife. If they are happy, then I'm happy, and if they are healthy, then I'm healthy.
Yeah, it's like happy wife, happy life.
That's well said.
So
I need to use that. I need to remember that. That was good.
So thank you so much for such a good interview. It literally was a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope that your new album, upcoming album, will hit all charts, so over the world.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. At least now it looks pretty cool, especially the Justify single has gotten quite a lot of attention, more than I actually expected. But I mean, it's a great song, and the video is great, and the song was good before I sent it to Sammy, but then when it came back from Sammy, what he did was, it was just like, wow. So I need to give credit to Sammy for making a good song, an exceptionally good song.
So
he's the man.
yes, actually, like fan base of our society wait from Sammy his own solo album.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
But
well,
maybe
I need to talk about him about that, because we could record it here in my studio.
So maybe someday, yes.
Maybe someday, yeah, yeah.